Madden 26 introduced a brand new coaching ability system with over 100 different options that help in everything from scouting to player development to better performance on game day. But you can only use up to 6 at a time, so if you want to know which ones are the best to use to give you the biggest advantage in your franchise, stick around after this brief advertisement. If you guys are looking for fast, cheap, reliable MUT coins, check out my coin sponsors at MMOXP.com and use discount code MONEYSHOT for 6% off your order. Link in the description below. The champ is here! Welcome back, Money Team. This is Mad Money Shot, sniffing out the Madden cheese as always. In today's video, I'm going to continue with my brand new series on franchise tips, and I'm going to go over probably the most undercovered thing when it comes to new franchise mode players, and that's the new coaching abilities, as there's a whole new system in the game right now that has coaching abilities across 3 different coordinators as well as a trainer, giving you hundreds of different options. So I'm going to go over the best ones to use, whether you need a boost on game day, whether you need better player development or better scouting, or even better management when it comes to wear and tear. But before I do, as always, if you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to be a subscriber, hit the like button, let me know in the comment section. Other than that, let's go get right into the video. Now, the first tip that I want to go over is which one of these 4 guys here you should focus the majority of your coaching currency on. And to me, it's pretty obvious. It should be the head coach, because that's you. So if for whatever reason you build up one of these coordinators and they leave, you're going to lose all that work. You're going to lose all that currency, while you're not going to lose the currency that you spent on yourself. So just like in real life, invest in yourself, because ultimately these things are going to stay with you. Even if you go to a different team, they're going to go with you. So this right here is the guy that I'm going to focus on the most. But there are going to be some abilities that coordinators have sometimes, and especially the trainer, that the head coach doesn't have, is because you don't have anything when it comes to wear and tear. So there will be times where you have to spend money on other guys, but ultimately the majority of the stuff, if you have an ability here that's both available in a coordinator and the coach, always choose the coach. That's just the most obvious way to go. Now, there's 4 different categories here when it comes to gameplay, which is going to be offensive and defensive. We have player development, which to me is probably the most important. Personnel definitely is important as well, as these things will have, you know, a huge impact on everything when it comes to building your team. And then you have scouting, and we can see we got a lot of stuff that I haven't even unlocked, because to me a lot of it's not really that important. Now, when it comes to the trainer itself, as we have 4 categories here for the coach, you do have a 5th one that just the trainer controls, and that's wear and tear. And I'll go over that as well, as there's really 5 different categories here that you can affect. So we're going to start off with what I think is the most important ability, or the most important area to focus on when it comes to your head coach, and that's going to be player development / personnel, because this is a system that really works together. And I say scouting too, as you can tell based off the fact that I have certain areas that are unlocked all the way to the 4th tier compared to my gameplay ones, which I really don't have any unlocked, with the exception of this one, because this is something that I did very early on in the franchise that I kind of regret. I don't really feel like you have to put too much into the gameplay itself, but I will go over the ones that I think that are most important. But we're going to start off with player development, because you can tell that I put the majority of my stuff here. And the reason that I'm doing player development is because if I go to, you know, this is all about team building. Now, I know people might say that, you know, it's the Eagles. How much do they really need to build, considering that I have a team that won the Super Bowl last year? But they did lose a lot of players, especially on defense. And when they came into the year this year, they only had an 84 overall rated defense when I started this franchise, which is something that I got up 8 points. I'm only in year 2, or about halfway through year 2. As you can see right there, it says the 2026 season, which is, like I said, I really only played the first season, and now I'm almost through the 2nd season. And one of the ways that I did that is through the method that I'm going to show you guys. But even if I don't keep those players, if I go to the transaction history and I focus just on the Eagles here, which I'll try to get to, you'll notice that one of the best ways to build your team is by constantly building up players and then potentially trading them. So if I go to my traded players before the deadline, I had a couple of guys I really didn't have enough money for, and that's because if you're constantly building up players like I'm going to show you guys, you're not going to be able to afford to keep them all. So I had to trade Jordan Davis, who I had built up to only for like an 84 or 85, because I didn't put a ton of time in him, but I couldn't afford his contract. So I traded him, and I also got a player in return. I put him on the trade block, which is what I typically do. I got a player in return who I also traded, which is the same thing I did when it came to my safety in Sidney Brown, who I typically call Sheldon Brown. Shout out to the people that always tell me that in the comment section. But Sidney Brown here, I built him up to a superstar safety, even though he sucks in real life. I had him up to like an 85, 86, so I traded him, got some draft capital, and I got guys like L'Jarius Sneed, who I once again traded for more draft capital, and I also got back guys like Rico Dowdle, who I traded once again for more draft capital, and that's really just the process. I just kept doing that over and over. As you can see, pretty much any player that I got back in that trade, I would move because I really didn't want them anyway. And the end result of that is going to be a lot of draft capital. Now, I haven't finished the full process, but you'll notice that I have a ton of picks. I have 2 second rounders, 3 third rounders, 4 fourth rounders, a bunch of 5s, a bunch of 6s. Once the offseason comes about, I will package these together and move up in the draft and hopefully have a bunch of 1st and 2nd round picks so I can basically play whatever, get whatever players I want. But even with these guys, you can take shots in the dark and unearth like superstar players and stuff like that with really high dev traits late in the draft. So it's not like these picks are throwaway picks, as I have what looks like 20 or more draft picks, and that doesn't even include draft picks that I got in the future, which I'll also do. I'll trade into, towards, if I still have these draft picks that I don't want, I'll trade them in the draft for future picks in future years and continue this process of just having unlimited draft capital to build my team, which isn't necessarily the best option because I don't really have a lot of space on this roster, even though I only have 46 players. That's the lowest I can go. I have a pretty good idea of the amount of players that I need. I wish I could cut more, if I'm being honest. I wish I could get down to like 35, but ultimately, this is the thing that I'm going to continue to do. This is the process. I'm going to continue to develop young players. And I made a whole video about this. If you guys want to see how to rebuild teams, I will have a link to that popping up in the top right-hand corner right now, as well as on screen at the end of the video, where I really show you guys just how to rebuild young rosters. You always want to get young rosters, and that's because young players are the easiest players to build because they require the least amount of XP, which is something I went over in that video, which is what makes draft capital so such an important thing. So ultimately, player development to me is the most important thing. Obviously, upgrading these tiers where you have, individual positions that raise are going to be the most important. But to me, the second most important, or maybe the most important, is going to be after school tutor, because this will essentially give you more additional focus players, plus you'll get a 10% increase to training XP for all players. So while you're getting that individually with these, you're getting, the ability to focus on 6 players in this particular one every single week, which is something that I use every single week. So the second that runs out, as you'll see here, I have 6 focus players instead of 3. The second that runs out, I'll do it again. And you'll notice too that I'm focusing on young players once again. This is something that's very important, as this guy here and this guy here were draft picks. This guy here is like a 93 speed guy. I've played with him. I haven't used him in a game, but I drafted him for his speed because he was the fastest quarterback in the draft, and I already have him up to a superstar because of the next thing I'm going to show you, which is also in the Coaching Central here, abilities that I have all the way maxed out, and that is the Camp Counselor, which it says additional 100 rookie snaps for gold medals in training camp, and then you also have a 2 times XP boost for training camp minigames, 4 times XP boost for training camp minigames, but the most important one is a 5% boost to dev trait upgrade odds in training camp minigames. Now it says training camp, so I don't know if that only accounts for the beginning of the year when you basically before the season starts, but sometimes I keep that on all year round just because I want that 5% boost in dev trait upgrade odds, and it really worked out when it comes to this player. So if we go over to the GM's office and I take a look at Hicks, like I said, he was drafted as a, and you can see he hasn't played, he's only got 200 downs played, but he was drafted, he was a normal, which kind of sucked. But at the same time, because of the dev upgrades that I got through the minicamp games or through the training games every week, he's already up to superstar player, and he hasn't played a single down. I actually think I have played him a few snaps, but it's not to the point where he should be a superstar player. Like, he hasn't really done anything. It's really just because he's worked his way up through practice every single week. So that to me is definitely one of the most important ones. Those two right there, I keep on every single week. The after school tutor is one of the most important. The camp counselor is one of the most important. And the third most important, since I have 6 slots open right now, typically you start off with 5, but the third most important is going to be head of the class, because this right here gets you your coaching staff currency. So since I want that so I can unlock more of this stuff, those are the 3 pillars when it comes to the things that I want to have at all times. Now there are other ones here that are kind of important that I haven't had a chance to use yet, because last year I unlocked the higher 5 tier 2 scouts, But in the future, I already unlocked the tier 3. So when the next season starts and I have the option to choose my coordinators, I'm going to put this one on. And maybe, I don't know if I'll be able to put this on throughout at the season when it starts, or during the season, or however that works. I haven't really figured that out yet. I don't really think so. But once maybe one of these runs out, because you can see they're all kind of in the middle of their process, I'm going to try to put this one on, this higher 5 tier 3 scouts, to see if I really can boost my ability to basically scout players. If I go to my regional breakdown, you can see that my tier 3 scouts focus is quarterback and safety. And if I go, he's my national scout. So if I go to my actual prospects, you'll notice that when I go to the safeties specifically, which I need a new safety because I just traded the safety, which I showed you guys, we have, the safeties are pretty well scouted out to the point where I pretty much know exactly who I'm going to pick. I'm going to go right for this guy right here because he's scouted to 100% already, even though I think I made him a focus player. We just went through focus players, and I think the top 3 guys are my focus guys. But you can see how, this guy here looks like the best safety on the board, and I'm going to try to add him, depending, as long as he's not like super slow or something like that. But you can see how the benefit of that would be compared to other positions where I only have 1 star. If I go to like the Mike linebackers or something like that, which I only have a 1-star guy here, it's going to be minimal. It's 40%. I really don't have any idea of what these guys look like. So next year, I'm going to have 5 3-star scouts across the board, and I'm going to have a really clear picture of what my scouting looks like when it comes to players. But like I said, I just recently unlocked that midway through year 2, so I didn't really get the benefit of it yet. But that would be probably the 4th most important one that I would have up at just about all time. So it would be these 2 here, this one here, and like I said, whenever I get the ability to put this one. So that'll take up 4, leaving really only 2 spaces left. Now, I still feel the most important ones are going to be player development. So I'm going to look at whatever positions I'm trying to build, or whatever positions have the most young players. To me, one of the better ones is wide receiver, tight end, although ultimately offensive positions I really don't like to have set, which is why I don't have it set right now, because you can control this based off of throwing the ball to the receivers, or throwing the ball to your tight end, or handing the ball off to your halfback, or throwing the ball with your quarterback. These are positions that are way more controllable. On defense, I typically want to have these on positions like safety, cornerback. I'm always trying to build the secondary because I think that's the most important area. Defensive linemen, these are all areas that you don't have control over. Linebacker, you don't have control over things like that. Offensive line would probably be another one too. As positions, you don't have control over how they perform or what type of stats they get necessarily, because they don't, you don't have control. You don't control the ball. You don't know where the ball is going to go. You don't have the ability to do that. So I would save the offensive position, even though I have them maxed out. I don't typically use them as much because I can just always boost that up in game by getting stats compared to the defense, which I'm always trying to build. So I would have them on. So my 4 positions would be set, leaving only 2 open, and I'd probably have that set mostly to the cornerback and the safety because those are the most important positions. But it's all based off of your team. If you have older players in those areas, you probably don't want to waste your time. You're going to want to go where your youngest players are that you're trying to build, and then increase their XP, because that's the most important. Now, that would be the 6 that I would have running at all times. So I really don't have much space left for gameplay ones, which I don't really feel are important because, once again, I control that for the most part. If you're struggling in your league and you want to, basically have some of these active, there are ones that are better. And to me, they're always based off of defense. Like I said, to me, offense is always the easiest way to play. So if you want to improve your team's performance in game, you're going to want to stick typically to the defensive side of the ball. And the best ones are probably going to be based off of what type of coverage you're running. Now, when you see these ones here, like cover 2 guru, if you run cover 2 all the time, there's also a cover 3 one I think that I have. Maybe it's my defensive coordinator. No, it's right here. Cover 3 plays. These say increase zone coverage for cornerbacks when running cover 3. This one says increase zone coverage for cornerbacks when running cover 2. Stuff like this is going to be important if those are the type of defenses you run all the time. We all know what our favorite defenses are. For me, cover 3 and cover 2 are probably my favorite. Maybe man coverage would be mixed in there, but you're going to want to focus on these. If you want your defense to be specifically better, find the ones that run that basically coincide with the defense that you run the most, and this will have the most success. It will have the most benefit. So if you run man coverage most of the game, it says increase reaction to in-breaking routes in man coverage, and then you can see once you get to tier 4 that you get multiple more benefits. And that's not to say that there aren't ones that are really good and that are better than others, as I will go over some really interesting ones when it comes to gameplay adjustments, ability abilities, and one of them is going to be Stamina Stealer. If you like to run the ball, this one looks like an absolute cheat code if you're a run-heavy player, as you have the ability in the first 2 tiers to basically give fatigue hits to the defensive line and the linebackers for every 4+ yard run. So I don't know if that means 5 yards or 4 or more yards, but if you run the ball a lot and you're successful, you're going to wear that defense down very quickly with this by the time you get to the 3rd and 4th quarter. You're going to be playing either a lot of backup players or a lot of players are just really tired and losing their blocks or losing stamina to the point where they're just not running very fast anymore. I mean, you can really wear down a defense fast with this. Now, tiers 3 and 4 gives you another way, or 2 more ways rather, to basically drop fatigue for players, because it doesn't say anything about cornerbacks and safeties, but it says that increased fatigue hit for defenders who miss tackles and for defenders who miss hit sticks. So you really have several ways to wear a defense down, and this one here looks really overpowered. For defense, this one's really important here as it increases your knockout chances, but it doesn't give you a percentage. So it's kind of in that gray area where it's like, what does it really do? It's called Mr. Dream, but it increased knockout chance of passes on 10 yards or less, all the way up to 20 yards downfield, and then it says increased knockout chances on passes 20 yards and beyond. So if you unlock this, your chances for knockouts are increased all across the board. There's also another one here, like when it comes to hit sticks, called Hit-em-Miss Stick-em-Miss. It says increased fatigue on offensive players from hit sticks, and then it says slightly larger hit stick timing window, significantly larger hit stick timing window, all the way up to significantly increased fumble odds for successful hit sticks. I don't really find, I have a lot of abilities on players that are supposed to increase fumble odds, and I don't really find that they necessarily do much. So this one here, because it says significantly, it makes me think that that would be a better chance of getting more fumbles. So this one here would definitely be interesting for defense, based on the fact that getting the ball is the most important thing in the game. So anything you can do to increase your chances of getting turnovers, I think is definitely worth looking into. Now, another one for offense, because accuracy is one of the most important things, is dashing dots. As you can see, increased QB accuracy when throwing on the run, increased QB accuracy when throwing outside the pocket, reduced pressure effects on the quarterback outside the pocket, and then last but not least, increased max distance for throwing from quarterbacks, which is really important, because ultimately when you have a quarterback like I do with Jalen Hurts, where he has a sub 90 throw power, I need that. So this is something that I could definitely use if I was playing this in a franchise with like other people or something. I would definitely use this for just the top 3 tiers especially. I mean, they're all good. Increased accuracy is really good. Reduced pressure effects is really important so you can stay accurate. And then last but not least, like I said, the max throw distance is really important. So this is a very good one as well. And then this one's also really important to kind of counteract what we went over before about knockouts, as this is going to be best against man coverage, but it really works against both. Happier Feet here says that receivers run sharper in-breaking routes at tier 1, and then at tier 3, sharper out-breaking routes. So they're going to beat man coverage way better. And then it also has reduced knockout chances on in-breaking routes and out-breaking routes. So if you have somebody that has a lot of knockout abilities, you can hold on to balls better simply by getting this all the way up to tier 4. You also have one called Cool Under Pressure, where it has reduced pressure effects on the quarterback outside the pocket as well as inside the pocket in tier 3, and then you have a better chance of breaking sacks outside of the pocket and inside of the pocket in tier 4. So this is something as well. Once again, it's all about accuracy. Now, for defensive coordinator here, which I don't have under my offensive head coach, which something I said earlier, we have one called Interior Havoc, where it says slightly increase all the way up to significantly increase power and finesse moves from defensive tackles, because you're going to be getting much more pass rush, which is always important. Now, you also have Mono a Mono, which once again, my head coach doesn't have, where you have an increased reaction to in-breaking and out-breaking routes in the top 2 tiers, but then you also have reduced chances of press losses and increased chances of press wins. So if you like to play a lot of cover 2 man and you really want to hold those receivers up to the point where your pass rush can get in, this is going to be something that's going to be pretty overpowered, doing a lot of press man coverages. And then you have another one here which increases the chances of strip sack, fumbles, and passing paranoia. Once again, only in my defensive coordinator, not in my head coach, where you do also have the increased pressure effects of QBs inside the pocket, as well as outside the pocket in tier 2. But the most important thing is, like I said, fumbles. If you can get fumbles, that's going to be huge. Getting the ball is one of the most important things. And then last but not least, we have the trainer, because wear and tear effects are obviously very important too. I keep these 2 on at all times. Number 1, I have reduced wear and tear damage during full practices. This way I can basically keep the full pads on the entire season, and it really doesn't doesn't affect my players' performance much. They may lose at 1 point here, 1 point there, but they typically all come back with 3 green bars or full, all but 1 green bar basically, which is to me, you know, fine. And then I also have reduces wear and tear damage during a game. So ultimately I don't take too much effect during that actual game itself, as I do find that these are pretty much the only 2 that I would recommend running at all. Now, based off of like the injury status in your game, which I do have injuries turned on in mine, but I have it lowered because I don't really want to lose my favorite players. I want to have fun. I want to play with my favorite players, but I have it lowered to like 12%, which is still injuries on. But if you have a league with higher injury setting in the franchise setting, you could always have this one here, which is injury relief, which says players on IR heal up to 25% faster, so you have it all the way maxed out, to this one here, which actually prevents injuries, which to me is probably the best one. Injury shield, reduce injury chances by up to 25% if you have this maxed out, which to me makes these the only 2 other options I would use, which I, you know, if I would take these off, as you can see, they only have 1 week remaining. So if they were to come off and I were to have a lot of injuries or some nature that I would want to prevent injuries, I would definitely use those. But until then, these 2 are the best to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there. But if you guys want to see more tips when it comes to building your team, I did make a full video that I show everything about how to build a team, including how to get gold in every single game in minicamp. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll let that pop up on my screen. So just click links. And until next time, thanks for watching, man. My shit out. Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below.